I'm probably muted. Hello.
Yeah, you were muted. So should we go ahead and get started, Didi?
Yeah, please go ahead. Okay, yeah, good evening. My name is Neeti Khaitan. I'm the interim head of the Computer Science Department here at UTD. And welcome to tonight's lecture in the Fall 2020 Grace Lecture Series. This wonderful Women Empowerment Lecture Series, inaugurated back in spring of 2015, has included many distinguished speakers from universities as well as local companies. And Dr. Pushpa Kumar will introduce tonight's distinguished speaker, who is President and CEO of Accelerate Consulting and has delivered many motivational speeches and lectures on survivability. Pushpa, please.
All right. Thank you, DT. And again, we would like to thank the support of our interim department head, Dr. DT, as well as the associate department head, Dr. Daskew, and our previous department head, Dr. Gopal Gupta, for their continued support. I would also like to thank Michelle, who's our story writer in our department, and she attends every single lecture, and she's very dedicated. So I thank her wholeheartedly. And also, I would like to thank Ms. Norma Richardson, who's not here right now, but she was instrumental in setting up this entire meeting. So without further delay, I'm going to introduce Neeti Khaitan, our 29th Gray Series speaker. So again, Neeti Khaitan Gupta is the president and CEO of Accelerate Consulting, Inc. Accelerate has both SBE and HUB certifications and specializations in connecting corporate diversity initiatives with minority and women-owned businesses. Ms. Gupta was the advisor of Unified Communications Company, AGC Networks. She is a board member of Aegis USA, a call center company as well. Prior to this, Ms. Gupta was the Chief Relationship Officer for Aegis Communications Group in Irving, Texas, a 60,000 people company, and boasts of a successful exit. She's been in external organizations such as a key executive at Greater Irving-Las Colinas Chamber of Commerce, the Vistage Forum, the Young Entrepreneurs Organization, and the Dallas Roundtable as well. She's a charter member of the Indus Entrepreneurs. Ms. Gupta, she sits on the board of the American India Foundation, Dallas. She's the executive board member of US India's Chamber of Commerce. And she's also the founding member of the South Central Board of American TeleServices Association. Ms. Gupta's nonprofit affiliations include Rainbow Days, Hope Store, Ekal Foundation, Girls Inc, and Pratham for Education, and Chetna, among others. So again, it is my utmost privilege and honor to welcome Neeti Khaitan Gupta for today's Grace Series talk. So I'm handing it over to you, Neeti. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Kumar, and thank you for the university for inviting me, and for all those who are joining us. I know it's late in the evening, so thank you so much. Dr. Kumar, I just wanted to understand, are most of the attendees students, or what is the, like, what kind of mix? So then, you know, when I'm addressing, I know who I'm addressing to mostly. You know, and it's time of Corona, so I don't get to see the audience. So I apologize for the question.
So you can, it's a combination of faculty and students. I'm looking at the list. So feel free to talk, talk what is there in your heart and your mind. So go ahead. I mean, you can just speak out like from your heart. Okay. Neeti, you're muted.
Am I muted? I think somebody's controlling it.
No, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not. Actually, this morning I was just saying that I was trying to write some points down. And, you know, when you are trying to talk about your life, you know, there are so many memories and there are so many things. So it was interesting to try to make it concise and make it meaningful and something that just stands out. So my story started when I was born, and I was born in India. And I was born in a very affluent family and a very well-known family. However, I was a second girl child. So not a lot of people were very excited when I was born, but I was born as a very healthy, baby. And when I was 2 years old, my mom decided to take me along with my older sister to get the polio vaccination. It was her turn to get polio vaccination, and I was 2 years old and I was crying. So she just took me for the ride. It so happened my sister had fever, so they decided to administer the polio vaccination to me, which I was going to get probably in a couple of months or so. And the polio vaccination was infected, and so I acquired polio because of the vaccination. So that was my, I would say, the second tryst with destiny. The first was born a girl child, which I celebrate today, but at that time. And the second was when the polio vaccination was given to me, and I did get polio because of that. It was just negligence and for no fault, right? But I was paralyzed immediately for about 6 years. Went into a short coma, in and out, and I was on the respirator for a bit. And I have very fond memories of those times. My mom and my dad took me everywhere. I was, they used to tie me up, and because my limbs would fall, they would tie me up and take me to, if they heard in London they had a treatment in those times, I'm talking about years ago, where we didn't have connections with airlines the way we have now. We didn't have internet. We didn't have any of those, but my parents still took me everywhere. They brought me to the US. They took me to UK. They took me everywhere they heard, from all these countries to small villages in India, where they heard there were these guys who would do a massage and I would be okay, or they would do some kind of prayer and I would be okay. So they took me everywhere. And the doctors everywhere just said, she's never going to walk. She's never going to breathe. Just let's pull the plug, because I was on a respirator, let her go. And my parents were, they said, however she is, we're going to keep her. And that's when my real life started, because my mom and my dad were amazing human beings, are amazing human beings. And I think I owe everything to my mom. And she never let me feel or even think that I had a disability or I couldn't do anything. So over the years, I think by that time I was 6 or 7 years old, with a lot of exercise, with a lot of massages, my upper body came back. I could start talking and I could sit up, but I still couldn't move waist below. And then they heard of somebody in the south of India, in Bangalore, who said that, come and stay here for a year and I will make this girl walk. And he was a quack in the Indian army. And like I said, my parents would take me everywhere they heard there was a slim ray hope. They took me there. He actually did, it was actually like a miracle. Like for a year, he treated me with massages and exercises. And after a year, it was like a Bollywood movie, those who are into Bollywood movies. And he said, get up and walk. And I said, I can't walk. And I was so scared of him that he said, you have to get up and walk. And I just pushed myself up and I fell down on the floor because my legs were weak. And my mom came to help me. And he said, if you help this girl today, she will never help herself. So let her be, and she's going to figure out how to get up. And that was the next phase of my life where I learned to get up. I trained myself and he trained me. And then over time, different doctors trained me how to use what I have instead of thinking about what I don't have, and train my body to walk. So today I walk. Of course, I have a huge limp. When I walk, you see that I have a disability, but I'm walking, I'm breathing, I am living. So that was just wonderful. My mom and dad, they put me in a very normal school, and I was made to do all the things that in the common language normal is supposed to be. I went in a school bus to school. My mom had only one line that she would tell me, figure it out. And that's what I would do. I would just figure out how to do things. And no was never an option. Impossible was not an option. And just figure it out. And I did. And then came time after I graduated from high school, which was one of the most wonderful times of my life. I had amazing friends, amazing teachers. I owe a lot to my teachers as well. And then it came time to go to college, and I wanted to come to the US. And again, in those times, we did not have internet. And I decided that I wanted to come here and do my undergrad. And my parents wholeheartedly said yes. And they said, wherever you want to go for it. I applied to 23 universities, got into all of them in the US, and came here. And I ultimately landed up actually in Pepperdine University, which is in California, because my dad really wanted me to go there since the campus was very well guarded and they had cameras. And so, he was leaving his daughter here and going back to India. So he felt safe. So I went to school there, and there began the best years of my life. I really thought that the US was truly a land of opportunity. I always joke that the president of America has made special parking for me, which is all the handicap parking, because I'm so special. Coming to that, I did not know how to drive. And when I came to the US, I learned that I could learn how to drive, because at that time in India, having a handicap, you couldn't get a license. I think even today, there are very, very special ways you can get a license if you have a disability. So I learned how to drive here, and it was like a set of wings that I suddenly got, right? And I just remember the day I learned to drive, and I got my first car, and it was the most beautiful feeling ever, because now I could drive fast because I couldn't walk fast. And finally, I could move as fast as my mind used to move. So it was a beautiful feeling, and I always joked that I feel so special because I get preferential treatment everywhere I go. Also, while I was in university, I learned that the importance of asking for help. And that was one of the big lessons that I learned was it's okay to ask for help. We sometimes shy away from asking for help because it might make us feel weak, or it might inconvenience the other person. But I've really learned that if we ask for help, it makes us feel stronger. And it actually, I have yet in how many ever, I'm not going to give my age away, but how many ever years of my life, I've yet to meet a person who was not happy to help me. I will find anybody on the street and say, excuse me, can you help me? I need help to get up that step. Can you hold my hand? And I have never heard a no before in my life. I mean, people are happy to help. So I think that was my first lesson I learned was it's okay to ask for help. First lesson when I came to the US, first lesson was impossible and no is not an option. You figure it out. Second is you ask for help. I had the most wonderful time university-wise. Of course, what you learn in books is important. I did my undergrad in business administration. So what I learned in school was fabulous, but what was even more important was what I was learning about life, what I was learning about myself, which was amazing. It really mattered who Neeti was, what I thought, and how I projected myself is how people accepted me. And then while I was graduating from university, I had to give my senior thesis. And that was, I remember that very clearly. I had to do a presentation to P&G, the company. And I was very, very scared. And not because I did not know my subject matter, but because I was very afraid. How will I walk into a room full of men in those times? I have an accent. I'm from a different country. I look different. I am extremely short. I'm only 4'11". I have a disability. How will I conquer all these things? How will these people actually hear what I have to say and go beyond how I look and look at my subject matter? And I was very stressed about it. And I went to my professor, Dr. Vardhamai, and I spoke to him about it. he just sat in front of me and he smiled and he said, think about all the things that you've just listed yourself out that is negative, that you're short, you have a handicap or disability, you have an accent, you are a woman. How are you going to capture the audience, or how are you going to walk into the room? And he just smiled and he said, think about it. These are exactly the things that make you stand out, and use these things to your advantage. And I was fairly young at that time, and I didn't understand what he was saying, but I said, okay, let me think about it. And I thought about it. I went the next day and I walked into the room of all these executives, and I had to present my senior thesis. And I just walked in with a huge smile, and I walked in my fancy walk, and I went and stood up at the podium and I said, hi, I'm Neeti. And there was pin drop silence, and I had the audience they were not even affected by all the things that I was stressed about. So that was the next learning is, use the things that you think are negative about you, and think about how will you make those exact things positive, or use those things to your advantage. I remember, one of the organizations here in Dallas, it's YEO, which is a Young Entrepreneurs Organization. Again, when I was going to walk into the room, I knew 98% of the people in that room were men, and successful business people. And how will I walk in? First of all, I can't even walk around. How will I walk in and talk to everybody? How will I make myself known? How will I make a mark? And that's when I walked in, because I walked differently, because I looked differently, because I was smiling, every single person turned around and looked at me. And that's the time I put out my hand and I said, hi, I'm Neeti. And after the first line, everybody had forgotten all the other things, and they just looked, and they all became, until today, they are one of my best friends. So that was the other learning that I had was, be who you are and use your negative that you think is negative or that puts you down as your positives, because those are the things that actually make you stand out. And use that to your advantage. I always joke and I say, when I walk into a restaurant, I must be the most gorgeous person, because every single person puts their forks and spoons down and turns around and looks at me, because I'm walking differently. I know that, but I just make a joke and say, see, I'm the most gorgeous person because everyone's looking at me, right? We spend so much money trying to make ourselves look amazing because, we want people to look at us. And I get it without even trying. So, so use what you have, because you never know what might work in your favor. After I graduated, I started working, and I took my family's help, and we bought a company called eTeleQuest, for which I was the CEO. After that, which was again in the call center space, then we bought Aegis. And we went on to buy more and more companies, and we exited all the companies at $1 billion mark. And I was on the board of all these companies. And the one thing that I learned, again, while through my working career, very young working careers, I was in my 20s when I was running a $14 million company all by myself, which was eTeleQuest. The one thing that I learned was, again, having no ego and asking for help was the best thing that I could do, because I hired people that were smarter than me, were older and experienced than me, and their views were different than mine. Most business leaders or most leaders in any organization that you go, sometimes we tend to want our way because we think our way is the best, or we think that what we are thinking is the best. But however, if I have found that in my career, that if I want to be successful or I want my company to be successful, I get people to surround me who are much smarter than I am, much more experienced than I am. And I listen. I will do what I want to do, but I always give them a ear, because That's why I have them on the team. Every time somebody would tell me you can't do something, I always turn around and say, wait and watch. So the doctor said, I will never breathe and walk. I'm breathing and walking right in front of you. I'm not walking in front of you, but I'm breathing. They said, you could never go to another country and survive. I've been here, I think now close to 27 years, 28 years. I did my master's, I did my undergrad here, I did my master's after that. So I've been here for a long time. Then they said, I never thought I could drive. I'm driving. I never thought I could run these companies and make a mark I'm still on the way, but make a mark in the corporate world, but I did. So if somebody told me, you can't go and see Machu Picchu, or you can't climb up Machu Picchu, and I said, wait and watch, and I did. Of course, I didn't physically climb it. I used a wheelchair, but I figured it out. I went on top of Machu Picchu. So anytime somebody says you can't do something, I go back to what my mom taught me: figure it out. Don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. So right now, the company that I am running, it's sort of sums up my entire life teachings and learnings that I've had. Is Accelerate Consulting, and it says, it is SBE certified, it is HUB certified, it's a woman owned, it's a minority owned, and if you think about it, it's a disabled owned company. And if you think about it, these are exact same things that I always thought were my negatives. And now, using the opportunities that I have here, I have used those exact same things, being a disabled owned company, being a woman, being a minority, being from a different country. I've used all these, got my licenses, and now I'm able to help other businesses, and hopefully we're growing together. So again, there's an old saying which says, make lemonade with lemons, right? So it's a very cliched, but I think in my case, I'm ready to make sangria, right? Lemonade is great, but I want to do better and bigger things. Everyone thought I would never meet somebody and get married, and I met my wonderful husband here in Dallas. They said you might not have a baby. I have a wonderful daughter who's 9 years old now. So never say never. You never know. And the two things that I'm going to sum up is, keep smiling, because it is a curve that straightens all the other curves. So if you have a positive outlook, you figure it out, and you just keep a smile on your face and a positive. I know it's very difficult on days, but if you still remember to do that, it'll work it out. The universe has its very interesting and fun ways that it helps you figure it out when you really want something really bad. And then the second thing that I always remember, it's a Garth Brooks song, a country song. I'm not into country music, but I heard this line and I loved it, and it said, "Thank you, God, for my unanswered prayers." And what that means to me is, what's meant to be will be for you, right? So it's very easy for us to say, why me, or why not me? Why this? Why not this? I could have sat at home in India, and I could have been taken care of all my life. I did not have to come here. And that's why one of the things I said, even though I came from a very affluent family, I did not have to come here and struggle at all, but I did. Even though I had the option of sitting and not getting up and walking, I pushed myself, and I did. So even though, and you have an option sometimes, try to take the other option and get out of your comfort zone, because you never know what's waiting on the other side of the door. If some hardship has come to you, it's because you have the strength to fight it. I just really believe that if you really want to do something, you can. So don't be delicate as a flower, be delicate as a bomb is what I always believe in. So go make your mark and, smile and think and believe in yourself. It always works out. So I am open for any questions. If I've rushed it, if Dr. Kumar, if you want to open it up for questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sure. So, Neeti, before I open it up to questions, I once again would like to thank you for sharing your extremely inspiring story, which really has touched and moved me a lot today. So much for even without showing a single slide, you just spoke freely. And as a educator, for me, like I use slides when I teach, and it's like totally humbling to watch you, just share freely. That was awesome. So at this time, I would like to open the floor to any questions for Neeti Khaitan here. Okay, Dr. Daskew.
I will get the party started. So the other ones will have time to think about questions. So it's an amazing story indeed of survival and of determination and, making your way through this. So you were saying earlier that many times you are among these powerful executives, right? And you have to just make the best of it and find your way. And was it at any time that you found any kind of aversion? Was your most of the time, if not always, welcoming and helpful, like you mentioned at some point a couple of times? So did you ever find any kind of, I know, maybe not aversion, maybe that's not the right word, but I mean, you get the idea.
Right. If I'm understanding your question right, the answer is no. I wish I could tell you a painful story, but the answer is no. I don't think I have ever faced any kind of, I don't want to use the word discrimination, but aversion or I've never faced that. Yes, it's not been easy, but it's again, I've always spoken up, and um, I don't think I've ever faced that aversion or any hardship where, and it's true, it happens. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I know it happens because I think there is some data where it says 80% of women in the boardroom don't speak up, and because of which the ideas which are theirs have been taken away by the other executives, right? Because we create our own bubble and we create our own ideas of what we can do or we can't do, or so again, very early on I learned on that if I want to get something, I need to go ahead and get it. So and always I teach my daughter this. There's a fine line between disrespecting and self-esteem. So I don't cross that line, but I make sure I'm heard and I take what I think is mine.
Thank you very much. That's great to hear, actually. So I would also like to say that your parents seem to have been amazing people. I mean, just by telling you, figure it out, you can do it. You are down there and you get up, right? I mean, something like, say, I as a parent probably could not do it. So
yes. No, I would agree. I make it sound easy. It's not easy. I mean, as simple thing as sitting on this chair is not easy, right? Because as soon as this camera is off, for me to get up from this chair is tough. For me to transfer my, I was telling Dr. Kumar earlier, I don't come to UTD very often because the parking is far for me to get to wherever. So it's always a challenge, right? But But again, your mind always has to go to plan B and B, C and D and E and F and figure it out, right? So yeah, no, it's not been easy. I'm maybe I'm oversimplifying it and making it sound all rosy and nice. It's not. But but you figure it out. You figure it.
But here you are. But here you are. So. Thank you very much.
Very welcome. Thank you for asking.
So next question is from Harita.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, firstly, thank you. This was really inspiring, especially that you tell all of these stories with that smile of yours. It's great to listen. Yes. My question was, I think I'm firstly glad for people like you who've paved the path for women of color and for others. So now when I go into the room, luckily I'm not the only one who looks like me in the room.
True. That's
so thank you. Yeah, but even in this case, what I see is sometimes I find a lot of subconscious bias. I'm sure you have faced it. It's not their intention to for any of that to happen, but sometimes they wouldn't just know or know any better. And so in those cases, how do you overcome and not offend them either, but how do you say, hey, no, that's something I can do, or no, I already know the answer for this, and how do you respond to that?
It's a great question, and you're right. It does happen. Again, so when you face such a situation, or I have faced such a situation, what I've done is, again, knowing that they have already stereotyped me. They've already formed an image in their mind about what I do know, what I don't know specifically. Then I have to take responsibility of that, because so in the past, what I've done is, again, I have taken responsibility that it is now my job to show them, again, respectfully, that I know. So say, for example, I'm not sure if you've been to any job interviews, or you are, or if you're still a student. If, say, you go on a job interview, and when you walk in and there is a gentleman or a lady there, biases could be from any gender, and they think that just because you have an accent, or they've already pegged you or stereotyped you. But then don't let that affect you. Just do not let that affect you. Go ahead, answer your questions confidently, give them more than they require, and they'll see the difference. And you are very, very right by saying, in today's climate, or the business environment, or the corporate world, some of those biases are no longer there. The biases that I faced, or could have faced when I was going through my learning years, because now, like you said, there are many other women or people of color in the room, right? With accents. I one of the things I do is staffing, and I see that a lot of people with really thick accents are getting hired to really, really, they're coming from small little places from Africa, or they're coming, but they are extremely good at their job, and they know their subject matter. And sometimes I think, oh, maybe this manager is going to be biased, but by surprise, they see what the subject is, and if that person knows their job, and they hire them. So I think, going back to your answer, it is up to you on how you want to project yourself. Don't worry about the biases. If I walked into that your room, or I walked into the first PNG, I couldn't have presented if I had kept those my own biases against me. So the first thing you have to do is break your own biases in your mind, and think that you're going to conquer this, and you'll make it. So be confident. Win them with your smile and your subject matter.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Are there any more questions for Neeti? Looks like no. All right. So Neeti, I had a question, and that's with regards to, again, being a minority and a woman. So you have achieved so much success in your life, which I'm not talking about just disability, but even coming from, your background and things like that, coming to a different country and establishing, a huge, successful, CEO position and things like that. What would you say was the most difficult obstacle that you had to face other than, like your disability?
Right. So I think the most difficult thing that I had to go through, or sometimes I still go through, is you know the, I have drive, right? So in the morning when I wake up, I know why I'm waking up, and I find reasons to wake up to, and keeping that energy up. It is what makes it really difficult is getting on to that next step, and the environment that I had gone through, having a Indian lady, again, not keeping the disability, just having somebody who was a woman from a different country going to banks, raising money, or other people taking you seriously when you speak up. So yeah, there are biases again, and like I told that you have to just keep your mind strong, and just forge ahead, because that is difficult, just shattering and or making yourself more serious, letting them take you seriously, because sometimes they don't. So I think that is really tough when others are not taking you seriously, or you go to clients, and so I had to always take along with me more senior people than in age or experience, because they wanted to make sure that my lack of experience and at a young age was not going to come in between what I was going to my product or my productivity. So I think it is just having people take you seriously, making sure that they do.
Okay, thank you so much, Neeti.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So I think there are no more questions, at least what I can see. So I would like to ask Dr. DT to conclude today's talk.
Pushpa, there's a couple things out in the chat.
Oh, there's a couple. Hold on. So Dr. Charles Shields says it was very inspiring, and your attitude is your major strength.
Thank you.
And Dr. Gopal Gupta has also said it's a very inspiring story. And Professor Laurie Thompson, do you want to acknowledge Neeti?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Neeti for a very wonderful talk, and thank you very much for spending time with us.
No, my pleasure. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thank you. They were very kind comments. Thank you.
I was just going to read to you what I wrote in the chat since Pushpa missed it. I said, I don't have a question, but I'm truly amazed and inspired by the courage it must have taken to leave home and family safety to come to the U.S. to pursue your education and goals. Just truly inspirational.
Thank you so much. I really, can I just want to add a comment to that, Dr. Laurie, that, at that time, I didn't even think I had an option. So, when I read this today, I'm like, it must have been really strong of me, but it was not an option for me. I mean, I don't think there are times where I don't think, I forget that I have a disability. And if I see somebody struggling to open the door, I want to get up and go and help them. So sometimes not realizing or not allowing yourself an option is sometimes maybe it turns out great. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, so thanks, Laurie. And I think on this note, we can conclude today's talk. So once again, we thank Neeti for her time and for sharing her story today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dr. Kumar. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
So let's give a round of applause for Neeti from wherever you're sitting.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, Neeti.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
That was great, Pushpa. Thank you.
Hey, Charles, how are you?
I'm okay. Very much enjoyed it. Very much enjoyed it.
It was very different.
Yeah. Will we be able to download a copy of the video?
Yeah, I believe so. Michelle is recording it, actually.
This is one I'd like to store down. I'd like to save it.
Because Michelle was recording this and I just stopped it, I hope.
It looks like it's still recording on my end.
Hold on.
How are your classes?